Chapter 2.
It had been a good chase, he thought as they walked. When the pup was a little older, he'd make a right nice trail hound. Not that he really had a voice for it, though. He'd never been a real trail hound. Adam could give him the training, but he could never give him the blood or the nose or the voice. Back in Tennessee, that's where they had real hounds. Adam smiled, remembering some of the nights he had spent with his father in the swamps and forests around their home. The sound of the hounds was like sweet, far-off music. Their voices rang out clearer than a bell on the old church steeple. For hours on end, he and his father would run the coons, listening to the dogs' voices close and strong, then fading away in the distance, only to come ringing back again, clearer than ever. It seemed like all those good times were so long ago. But the memory was still clear in Adam's mind. The sights, the smell of coffee warming on an open fire, Dad and his friends sitting around, telling stories of dogs and hunts that would make their hair stand straight up on top of Adam's head. He remembered his dad and some of the hounds they had, and as he remembered, he smiled. But as he smiled, a tear trickled down the side of his cheek and left a salty taste in the corner of his mouth. No matter how hard he tried, he never would get over his father's death, not as long as he lived. The trail he followed turned sharply to the left, but Adam kept going straight. He knew what the view was like a few feet from where he was. Even though he wanted nothing more than to be home in Tennessee, he still couldn't help marveling at the beautiful country about him. He climbed a jagged granite boulder and crawled to its edge on his hands and knees. At the very tip, he flattened out on his stomach, making sure he had a good hold on the rock. He inched his way to the overhang. The valley floor seemed miles below. The tall pines along the stream were as tiny as matchsticks, and the stream was like a shiny silver ribbon that twisted and sparkled its way through a bright carpet of green. Their log cabin was no bigger than the dollhouse Dad had made for Adam's sister, Jenny, tiny and almost hidden away among the trees. Below him was what the trappers called the Whiskey Basin. It was a low, almost level piece of land surrounded by high mountains on all sides. Wild and rugged, this part of northwestern Wyoming territory was as untamed and free as any land God had set his hand to making. The pine trees rose from the mountain slopes like the heads of giant arrows pointing to the sky. From where he was, Adam could see every inch of the valley that his stepdad had homesteaded. There was no dispute over the land, as most of the other homesteaders and ranchers had taken the lands to the east of the mountains, lands that were flat enough for crops and low and open enough for running cattle. Their valley was so remote, no one else wanted it. The land, 700 acres, was all theirs. The few trappers that roamed the 1,000 miles of mountain range between here and Canada had long ago given the valley its name. But everything else in the Whiskey Basin belonged to Adam and his family. Therefore, it was only fitting that they had given their own names to the land. A quarter of a mile north of the valley was Lake Louise, named for Adam's mother. The stream that flowed from the lake was called Jenny Creek, after the older sister Adam had lost the first year they came to this cold, cruel place. The little wagon path that led from the pass in the mountains to the south of their front door was called Lori Lane, after Adam's little sister. A whining sound woke Adam from his thoughts. He rolled over on his side to see where the noise was coming from. The red pup had started out on a boulder to be with him, but when he saw how high they were, he stood on trembling legs, whining as he peered over the edge. "Ah, you big coward," Adam scolded. He eased up and made his way back to the pup. Still trembling, the dog sighed as Adam picked him up. "The dogs we had in Tennessee wouldn't have been scared to come out here. You aren't worth much, are you?" The pup only whined and trembled some more. Adam shook his head in disgust. When he got back to the path, he put the pup down and started on his way. "We better get back. If we don't, Mother will get worried about us and send Sam out to find where we went. And I don't feel like having Sam chewing on me today." Adam stepped on the big log they had cut for a footbridge to cross Jenny Creek. Right then, Sam and his mother called to him from across the valley. "Adam," yelled his mother, "where have you been? Your father and I just started out to look for you." Adam felt his teeth grind together. He wheeled to face them. Sam and his mother made their way carefully through the field of young corn that lay between the cabin and the stream. He could see his mother shaking her head. "You know you've been gone all morning," she fussed. "I've been worried near sick about you. Just where have you been?" Adam shrugged and motioned to the red pup. "Me and the pup was out chasing that mountain lion, that's all." Mother's eyes seemed to bug out. "Mountain lion?" "Yes, ma'am. You know that big she-cat we saw prowling around the calf lot last month? We run her." "For heaven's sake, Adam," his mother cut him off. "Don't you have any sense at all? Don't you know that a mountain lion is a dangerous animal? That thing could kill you and eat you up. Then we'd never even know what happened to you. Sam tapped Mother gently on the shoulder. Now, Louise, he said, smiling, I don't reckon that cat's going to do Adam no harm. This makes the third time they chased after her since the winter snow melted. I figure she just thinks it's a game, just like Adam and that pup do. Still, it's dangerous, Mother argued. What if something happened? What if he fell and got hurt? There'd be no way for us to know where he was. And Indians. What about the Indians? There's so many things that could happen to him, Sam, I can't help worrying. Sam shrugged. Well, son, your mother's got a point. Still, he said, tilting his head to the side when he looked at Mother, there aren't that many Indians left in these parts. Not with all the settlers moving in down the other side of the mountains. Besides, a boy's just got a natural yearning to roam. A boy's got to explore. It's only natural. All of a sudden, he smiled and looked back at Adam. I don't see no harm in you and that pup chasing after that cat. But since your mother worries about you, why not tell her where you're going to be playing next time? Adam felt his eyes squinting up tight. We weren't playing, he snapped. I was training that dog to trail. I can't tell Mother where I'm going because I don't know. I just go wherever the game leads me. Mother folded her arms and tapped her foot on the log bridge. Don't talk to your father in that tone, she scolded. I think he's right. And besides, he's not my father, Adam almost growled. My father's dead. If he were alive, we'd be back in Tennessee where we belong, and he wouldn't fuss at me for taking the dog out, and he wouldn't make me tell everybody where I was going, and he'd understand. Adam started shaking as he clenched a fist at his side. Only he couldn't tell whether he was trembling because he was unhappy or just because he was downright mad. Mother reached out and took his arm. Adam, don't you talk that way. Your father has been dead for 2 years. There's nothing we can do or say to change that. Sam's your father now. He's my husband and your father. I know it still grieves you that your father died, but taking your anger out on Sam won't help at all. Adam bit down on his lip till he thought it was going to bleed. He tried as hard as he could to stop the tear that squeezed from the corner of his eye, only he couldn't. He spun toward his mother, looking at her through misty eyes. Just 'cause you married him after Daddy died, it don't make him my father. I hate him. I hate him for bringing us way out here. I hate him for taking us away from our home. I hate him for trying to take Dad's place. He sniffed, trying to hold back the tears. And I hate you for marrying him. I hate both of you. He yanked away and ran as hard as he could. Adam, you come back here, Mother screamed after him. He didn't stop. He wanted to get away from them. He wanted to run from this place, from the mountains, the rocks, and the cold. He wanted things to be like they were when his real dad was alive, like they were back in Tennessee, like they were before his dad had died and Sam had married his mom and moved them way out here in this godforsaken wilderness, like they were before his whole world got turned upside down. He ran and ran. He kept a hard pace that made him pant and gasp for breath when he topped the Hogback Ridge, far up the trail behind their cabin. And when he could run no longer, he fell beside the path and cried.